Let me show you how to primer your U.S.S. Enterprise kit. Coming up next. Welcome back to our wonderful Star Trek video series. My name is Trevor Slescu and I'm the owner of Monster Hobbies in High River, Alberta, Canada. And today is a really good day. I've been looking forward for this one for a few weeks now because I was going to shoot this video sooner. However, out here in Alberta, it's been snowing and windy and horrible for a long time. And today is finally a day when I can actually start to prime the model. So before we go outside to prime the model, we're going to need a few little things. And we will need these big clips. We will need some of the little wooden clips that we made in the tool video. And then we need a margarine container, a roll of masking tape, and of course, some gray primer. And I use Trimclad gray primer. You can get this at any Walmart up here in Canada, any Home Hardware, any of those Home Depots, any of those places. And it's a good enamel-based paint, but it will take about a week to dry. So I like to use this stuff because I find it doesn't affect the plastic, and it does make a good paint color. And it's easier for me than to break out an airbrush and set up an airbrush and clean an airbrush and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, muck around with the air pressure in the airbrush and make sure it's all okay in the whole thing. I find it easier just to spray bomb it. So I'm going to show you the techniques on how to do this. And now let's go outside where we have a well-ventilated area and we can start painting this model. Alright, here we are in the kitchen just prior to painting, and I'm using this kitchen table with this black tablecloth here as a docking station for when I go and paint. So what I've done is I put a little masking tape, wrapped it around the bottom because that's a spot that is going to glue into the secondary hull. So I didn't want to have that get painted and then have to scrape the paint off after. And as you can see, I got our clamps down here with the clothes pegs on the bottom. And then on this one, I put the green masking tape around there. And you want to have the clips facing the back because that's where you're going to have your center of gravity is heading toward the back. And then here, I've got a old Chicken McNugget box that I use for painting. And I've got all our intercoolers on it. And then there's that margarine container. And I got the secondary hull, or the primary hull, pardon me, sitting upside down. We're going to spray it upside down first because this has got an angle here. So all the paint will be able to go all over it that way. And then when the primer is done, we turn it over this way and spray paint the top because this overhangs so it won't hit that bottom bit, right? Okay, now let's go outside and get ready to paint. Alright, so here we are outside, and I've got saran wrap on top of the camera so that I don't spray paint it. Hopefully the microphone can pick me up okay. So, I've got our warp engine here, and I'm going to start with that. But before I actually paint it, I've got a tack cloth here, which is this kind of weavy, sticky rag. And when you use this, it'll remove any bits of dust. It'll stick into the rag. So if there's some dust on here, it should get rid of it. What can I say? So as you can see in the backdrop, we've got some snow going on out here. It's the first day of the nice spring melt, so you can maybe hear the drips coming off the house of the neighbor next door, and you can hear people screaming because it's nice to be outside on when you get cooped up all summer, or all winter I should say. So now with your primer, you want to shake up your can of primer, because there's a metal ball you can hear cracking around in there. That will break up any paint that's clumped up in the bottom, as well as get the propellant moving. And then you want to remove the cap, and what you can do is, on the top of the cap there's these depressions in here. I don't know how well this can pick up. I'm kind of against the sun. You just squeeze them and it comes off. And then before we actually paint on the model, we're just gonna paint a little on the deck here to see how the paint comes out. And it's looking pretty good. Okay, so when you spray paint, you never want to like arc your hand like that, because what happens is if you arc it, swinging it, you'll go, the spray pattern will be thin, 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 thick, 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 thin, 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 thin. So what you want to do instead is pivot at your wrist. So you're going across, you're going off the edges, and pivot with your wrist, and then that way you're hitting this flat and even. Okay, so here we go. Now ordinarily you should be wearing a respirator mask and everything, but for today, for me, I suggest you go get one on. But for me, I'm going to take the risk. Also, you should have gloves on too, so you don't paint your hands. But anyway, yeah. Okay, so I'm going across, nice even coat. And you want to stay about 6 inches away, or about a hand's length, which I think is under 6 inches. And note that I'm turning the model around using the clip stand as something to hold on to. Oh, it's a nice day for painting. And what you're looking for is consistency in your paint job. And you want to get this nice and wet and even looking. And don't be too worried if you kind of fill some of the little things inside there, because the primer paint will, when it's drying, it will shrink a little bit and it'll suck down into all the little grooves and whatnot. So you want to inspect it, make sure there's no drips happening, and this looks pretty good. So afterwards you turn your spray can upside down and you just give it a little puff, and that'll clear out the little hole there. And now let's go grab another piece. Alright, so I grabbed the secondary hull here. I know this is in the shadows, the sun's coming at me this way, and my porch doesn't go, you know, out there that I can turn the camera around. So I'm sorry folks, but just have to try to do our best here, like the Boys or Beaver Scout motto, do your best. Anyway, so I'm using that tack cloth again on our secondary hull, and I'm just wiping this down to get rid of that dust. And I can't even see the viewfinder to see where I'm aiming here, so hopefully it's not going to look horrible. But, oh, found a little hair under here. Okay, so we're going to go off the model and across. Get that neck there. And then across the back to paint our shuttle bay doors. And we'll go out this way. Now I can see a little orange peel happening there, so that's just telling me it's a bit dry. orange peel, a pebbly effect. Okay, across there. That's looking pretty good. Now we got to get our front end cap here. And then I'll put it down here. And I'll blow along the top, which is really the bottom, because remember this is going to be upside down on the model. And remember to pivot with your wrist, not with your arm. Get a nice smooth flat finish. You know, I really like painting. It's part of the most relaxing part of doing this, because you just gotta get it right on there. Then we turn the can upside down. Now, some people like to spray really light coats and then let it dry and then come back like a week later or 15 minutes later and spray another light coat and gently build this up. I kind of find that if you go more into the middle, like not too heavy, not too light, that you actually get a more better covering coat. Okay, this is looking good. Making sure in the shuttle bay is okay. And I think I'm ready to go grab another piece. Alright, so here's our saucer section, and I just have it sitting on that margarine container. And so what we're going to do is we'll just go around it with the tack cloth. Hold it there like a pizza pie. Okay. Gonna get the dust off both sides. And now you may be thinking, okay, this is a curved surface and all the rest of that. It may be more complicated to paint, but really it's not that difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it, and then I'm going to go underneath here, and I'm going to turn the container so that I can get around to all the angles. Okay, so I'll start this way. Remember to give a little test on somewhere that's neutral, not on your model. We're going to go across, keeping it nice, and then around the bottom here. Okay, then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, come across, about there. I'm just kind of pointing into the middle here, and then turn it another 90 degrees. Let's get these impulse engines. And the final 90. And there we go, and it looks evenly wet all the way around, which means that this is a nice even coat. Maybe I'll just for luck here, give it a couple on the top. Now I didn't mask into that groove there, but we can always scrape it out with a knife later. Alright, now I can't turn this over right now because obviously the wet paint will stick to the bottom, so I have to leave the saucer to dry longer before I can turn it. Now let's go grab the little intercoolers. Okay, now that we've gone through the big stuff, the intercoolers and the small stuff is relatively easy, because all we need to do is just go right across them. And there you have it. Alright, so with these parts, we're actually going to do something a little different, because if you look here, the instruction calls out for these to be black on the bottoms, and if you look here, it says steel blue. Now, if we paint the whole thing with flat black paint, it'll be easier to paint the steel blue on the backs because it'll have a dark base for it to adhere to and to show through, so it looks like steel. Now, this funny thing here is a stand for another Star Trek model kit, the three-piece adversary set, and this is, of course, our stand for this kit. So I'm going to paint those with our flat black. And now this can is very low, which I don't really like to use too much, because then it's siphoning right out of the bottom of the can, but I don't have time to go get a new one, so what can I do? Alright. Hopefully I'll have enough here. Try to get the parts for this model before getting that stand for the other one. And as you can see, I taped it down to a box. Makes it easier to turn and to get paint. Now, the reason why I don't like to siphon off the bottom of a paint can is that you can get some weird chemical imbalances, and you also sort of have to shake the can as you're painting just to get whatever paint you can up through that straw. Oops. Okay, let's hope that does it for that. Okay, I think I might be good. Okay, I'm out of flat black, but the thing with this is, ooh, I'm gonna get some distortion over here. See the cellophane pulling right there. This flat black can act as a primer, and it can also act as a final coat, so we're gonna be good for that. And now the reason why we do primer stuff is to hide the putty and any other imperfections underneath the primer. And primer will also allow you to see where you may have missed spots or whatever. And that's in our sanding phase, which will happen in the next video. Okay, so we got one more thing to spray paint, and that is going to be our sensor, main deflector shield or whatever. And in these instructions they call for it to be yellow, but on the real show it's copper. However, since I'm building this model kit to be an exact AMT replica here, with the color call-out sheets, I'm actually going to paint it yellow. Now the nice part with this is that we don't need, because this is a separate piece, I'm not going to try to primer it. I'm just going to paint it directly with the yellow paint. So of course, testing, and paint it from the back first. I'm just going to roll this around, give it 2 passes and a turn, and that should be nice. Then I'll paint the front, turn, 2, turn. I'm holding the paint at an angle so I'm not painting my hand down below. My hand will catch the Overspray, which is that paint that's going airborne there. And then a little upside down puff to clear that nozzle. And there you go. Ready for going on the bench to dry. Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode of Monster Hobbies Let's Build It, where we got to put primer paint on our U.S.S. Enterprise kit. And I really hope that your paint job came out as nice and smooth as mine did. Now, if you're a subscriber or going to subscribe to this channel, make sure you click the notification bell, because if you do, the next time I make a video, you'll get notified that one has come up. And if you're following this series, you'll also get notified. And this is a good thing, because you don't want to miss next week's episode where I show you how to sand down your primer paint and get it ready for the gloss gray that's going to be coming up next, our final coat. And then we can get into the detail painting after that. And many, many more cool things like decals and presentation. And then, if you have been following the series, but you've missed a few episodes, don't forget to check here, here, and here, and subscribe to us right here, because I'm getting monetized, so your views give me a couple of pennies here and there, which will allow me to make better videos. So until next week, live long and prosper.